Consent? Without objection. The chairman from Illinois is recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, it is increasingly clear, or Madam Speaker, I should say, it is increasingly clear that the stock market is voting against many of the policies put forward by this Congress. With stocks falling to 12-year lows, we have to re-examine the policies that we are pursuing here and ask, are they not helping and potentially actually hurting our future? In past years, losses in the stock market hurt Americans indirectly. Most people in the middle class did not own stock or rely on it for their retirement. But today, after the rise of the individual retirement accounts and the investor middle class, losses in the market directly affect the income and especially the retirement savings of many Americans. Now, in this Congress, we have embraced a high spending, high borrowing, high tax future for the American economy. As the details of our plans became clear, America's long-term investments rapidly declined in value. If the losses sustained in recent days continued, then the market Dow increase would actually fall to 0 by this summer. In my judgment, it's time to reassess, in a truly bipartisan way, the legislation that we need to improve our policies towards the long-term future of our economy, to investors, and especially equities on the stock market. Recently, I joined Congressman Gary Ackerman, a Democrat from New York, to back legislation that would reimpose the uptick rule, that would suspend the current application of the mark-to-market rule. These two reforms and a ban on issuing insurance to buyers who have no insurable interest in property would do a great deal to reassuring our markets. These reforms would not directly confront the policies of President Obama or his current vision. They would actually add to his policies, and they would quickly act to reassure markets right now on a downward asset spiral that is crippling both credit and equity markets. On the mark-to-market rule, look at what a typical transaction looks like today. We know that 90% of mortgages are being paid on time and in full. But any collection of mortgages right now, if bunched together, will have a market value of 0. Even though 90% of the mortgages are paid, even though for the 10% of homes where mortgages are not paid, the mortgage owner would be able to foreclose on the property, taking control of land and potentially a house or buildings that do have a value. The current mark-to-market rule is generating the wrong answer, that these assets actually do not have 0 value. But because the mark-to-market rule forces accountants to place a 0 value on these assets, there is a downward spiral in banking and financial equities that is ruining our long-term retirement savings. We faced this problem in the past. President Roosevelt, when he faced this problem, actually 5 times worse than the one we face today, put forward the Homeowners Loan Corporation that looked at this problem, in which half of all mortgages, not 10%, were in trouble. And what he said was this, through the Homeowners Loan Corporation: we would look at a more bureaucratic formula of the rental value of a property, of its underlying salvage value, or of a value of other properties that did have a market in recent days, in which we looked at the sales over a longer period of time. The answer that was generated by the Homeowners Loan Corporation showed that the asset actually did have a value and stopped the downward spiral of the market. Right now, we need to impose a formula well understood in the 1930s that would generate the correct answer, that a collection of mortgages, 90% of which are paid, do not have 0 value, and therefore should suspend the mark-to-market rule to prevent the attack on equities today. Likewise, with the mark-to-market rule generating the wrong answer, calling assets which actually have a value being valueless, we should reimpose the uptick rule to prevent the sustained negative attack on equities that are going on, driving a number of public companies who have substantial values into bankruptcy. And lastly, we should look very carefully at credit default swaps, engineered and put forward most strongly by AIG. We need to prevent anybody from buying insurance on an underlying asset of which they have no interest whatsoever. Next week, I will introduce the Stock Market Recovery Act. It will include these reforms to stop this downward spiral. We have spent enough. We've added $2 trillion in debt. Now we need these common sense, bipartisan reforms to send a different signal to the stock market. I yield back.
Thank you.